In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome back to my channel Nadir Hussain AR. In today's video, we are going to discuss Redux Toolkit integration in a React Native app, right? Earlier we were working on the web apps, however, because React and React Native are more similar and Redux Toolkit integration is going to be same for both web apps and React Native apps. So, what is Redux Toolkit? Redux Toolkit is basically a set of tools. As the name Toolkit indicates, that it is a set of tools that helps us write Redux logic in a simple manner, a standardized approach, right? Why was it needed? Because earlier manual setup of Redux, because Redux is a state management library. So earlier, before the introduction of Redux Toolkit, engineers had to write lot of boilerplate code, and it was a complex process of configurations. So before going to Redux Toolkit, right, let's first explore the main components of Redux architecture, so that you refresh your knowledge, right? So in Redux architecture, there are three main components. Basically, one component is the app, the UI component, that right we have. And as far as Redux is concerned, its main thing is the store is basically a container of the state, right? Here state is being contained inside the store. And the other thing is reducers. So what happens is that a component, whenever some action happens, like some click on a button, right, let's suppose you that needs to update some data, right, then as soon as some events happen, they translate into action, right? Earlier, in manual approach of the Redux integration, engineers had to define actions, create actions, right? Action were objects which contained basically a type, string type, as well as a payload data which defined that the related function, right? And these actions needed to be dispatched, and then reducer basically works based on the action. Basically, reducer is a function which performs switch case operation based on the action type, right, to identify that which action it was and what change needs to be done into the state, right? Reducer used to receive old state, and based on the action type, new state has used to be produced, which basically becomes part of the store. Then our UI components can access these states from the store, right, through hooks. Okay, I will provide this link into the description of this video. If you want to go through into detail, right, you may go it. Okay, now we have gone through the main components of the Redux, which is store is basically container of the global state, right? Here the data lies, right? And actions basically are the events triggered from our UI component. And from coding perspective, actions contain two things. One is identifier, which will be of a string, right, type will be of type string, and the payload data might be some object, number, or string. And reducers are the functions that take old state and action, then they work on the old state based on the type of the action, the switch case, right, and then they produce the new state. Okay, now we have explored the concepts of the Redux, basic concepts of the Redux. Now let's explore that how Redux Toolkit simplifies implementation of Redux or integration of Redux into our apps. There are 5 main steps, right? You will get these steps from any online article, which is first you have to configure your store. Then you have to provide this store to the provider so that it is accessible throughout your app, because a provider wraps up root of your application. We are going to look into the code soon. Then the main thing in the main concept in the Redux Toolkit implementation is the slice concept. I will explain it later. Once we have created the slice or implemented the slice, then we have to provide slice to the store, and that's it. Then we can access the store through two hooks, which is use app selector and use app dispatch. Now let's first go through these steps. Configure store, I will quickly go through it. So store.ts, let me actually show you the folder structure as well. So I am following the feature based folder structure. There are two features, onboarding and products. Onboarding is basically it will contain user type, right? And I have created one UI which will be the complete profile, right, where user basically enters first name, last name and email, right? Okay, and then there is a configuration folder outside of the features. Here we have configured theme, right, and then the store. The store, basically this configure store is a function defined in the Redux toolkit, right, and it accepts reducer parameters, and it is a list of reducers, right. We are going to explore reducer soon, but so for now you can just basically note down that we have to provide a list of reducers and specify a default middleware in the configure store method. In this way your store gets configured. The other step was that you have to provide this to your provider store. Here the Redux provider is basically, this also comes from the React Redux dependency. Store is being provided to the Redux provider. And the third step was to create the slice, which is basically a main concept in the Redux toolkit integration. So what is the slice? Slice, just like we have pizza slices, right? A whole pizza is divided into slices, right? Say on the similar concept, here if you consider this whole pizza to be a global state or whole store, right, then you are dividing whole store into different slices so that this store is manageable, right? So this is from where the concept of slice concept comes. Slice are basically mini stores to make the global state manageable, and they accept three parameters. This create slice method is again coming from the toolkit, and it accepts the name of the slice, which this name is later used to access, right, to access the state from the store. Then we have to provide initial state. I have defined initial state like this, and this a whole implementation is following TypeScript, right? So initial state is of the type user. This slice is actually going to handle the data of the type user. Then we are defining reducers, right? So here I have defined one reducer as update profile, which is going to update all these parameters of the state, right? And the other one is update email. Again I have, due to TypeScript, I have specified the types of the payloads coming into the actions, right? Here update email is just going to update the email. So these are the input parameters. Then what we are exporting, this is also important to note down. Then from a slice we export two things. By default we export its reducer, which will be we will use into the store, right? Here in the reducer, this is the name, right, which we have given, right, and here we have specified this default export reducer, and these are the actions creators which have been generated automatically. In earlier manual implementation, engineers has to specify create, basically creator action creators, but now toolkit generates it automatically. Update profile and update email. This was the main concept of Redux toolkit, the slice thing, which is essential to understand, right? Okay, once you have created it, you have specified the reducer here as well. The next step was probably to access the state. Okay, let's go to our component. Here is the complete profile, right? And let me do, basically due to TypeScript you might face some issues. You have to note down these three lines carefully, right? That how you are defining the, by default basically hooks are use selector and use dispatch from React Redux. However, to support TypeScript, this is also mentioned in the Redux toolkit documentation, we have to define them like them, get type of store dot get state store dot dispatch, and then just you have to follow the documentation to define like them. We are going to now use these hooks throughout the app. This is use app selector is going to be used to access the state, and use app dispatch is going to dispatch our actions based on the events in our app. So let's understand. Here we are going to first load the initial state, right? Whatever we have in the profile, this profile slice data, and I am going to initialize my component initial state with this one, first name, last name, and email. This is going to be displayed these initial values, right? Okay, then you change and there is one button defined save to Redux store. We on the save we are going to dispatch the update profile action creator with the latest values, and on clear input we have to clear from the display and then reload to make sure that whatever we saved, whether we refetch it or not. Let me actually run it so that you may understand it correctly from the running application. Okay, so here app is still running. This is the old state which I was testing before the recording of the video. So let's wait a couple of minutes and it will be ready. So by default it is loaded first name, this Nadir, and email this, because in the slice I had defined these initial values, right? Now let's change, let's make it hello world and hello world @gmail.com. On the save we are going to save. Let me, I had placed the console logs as well, right? So whenever I place save Redux toolkit in my basically component, then control goes to the reducer automatically here, right? And then I clear. Now display is clear, but if I reload the as you can see in this on the reload, what we are doing is we are updating, basically displaying the update data from the slice which we have got through use app selector. So let's see, we had saved hello world, whether it gets reloaded or not. You see, we got the data from the Redux. I hope you have understood this. If you have any question, you may basically mention it in the comments of this video, and I will then answer your questions. And I am going to also paste some links into the description of this video, which might be helpful to you to understand this concept on your own. Thank you very much.